Hello, this is Bob Schaefer. Does your church have a prayer list? Is it long? Do you have names on there that nobody even remembers anymore? Nobody knows how they got on there or what's happened to them since they were added to the list? Our church had that same issue. And so I developed a solution using Microsoft Excel 2007 in order to help us manage all of the requests that we have on our prayer list. I'd like to share that with you today. It's available for free for download from my website, www.bobschaefer.com. You're welcome to download it and make any changes that you like to the system. Make sure that they work for your church, because every church prayer list is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to walk you through how the prayer list works for us, and if you have any questions, please feel free to email me. My email address is bob@bobschaefer.com. Alright, so let's take a look. The prayer request list is in two forms, actually, two components. We have a request card that we custom made for the church, and we have a spreadsheet in Excel that is used to organize it. Let me show you first the custom-made prayer request card. The request card was done in Microsoft Publisher, and it is available for download also, both in a Publisher version that you can edit if you have Publisher, but also in a PDF generic format that you can use and just print out for your church. As you can see, the request cards are 4 to a page, and they are pretty standard. They're about what you would expect for a prayer request card. You're going to have a blank for the name of the person to be prayed for, the type of request, questions about confidentiality, and the membership, how long. That's an important part because our prayers on our prayer list do expire, and we'll talk more about that and why that's important in a few minutes. And then the name and the date of the person requesting. On the back side of the request card, you'll find information about sending a card and additional details. What that's about with the card is that our congregation has a card ministry. We gather names of people who are in the hospital or who might appreciate a greeting card, and we send those out. So along with the prayer request card, we offer the chance for people to submit an address that we can send those people on the cards a greeting card in the mail. So we'll also show you how that works in our request form. Alright, so now you've seen the card. Let me show you the computer end of things, the spreadsheet that we have in Excel. As I mentioned, this was put together in Excel 2007, and it uses some advanced features in 2007, which means that unfortunately it's not going to work if your congregation doesn't have a version of Excel that is at least 2007 or later. So if you're still working with Excel 2003 or XP, you're going to have to upgrade if you'd like to use this. But for those of you who have a more recent version, hopefully this will be a good solution for you. So what we have on the screen here is the spreadsheet where we enter all of our prayer requests. And although it looks like it's complicated, it's really simple. Let me walk you through it. In column A, we have the names of the people that we are praying for, the name that would be at the top of the prayer request. Column B is the concern that they listed, and you saw on our form that there were lots of different items that could be checked off, whether it's illness or grief or a medical procedure. You'll also notice that when you click in a cell as you're adding this data, there's a little arrow. That means there's a drop down there, and when you click on it, you can choose any of the items that we had that were on that prayer card. Now, as you're working on this for your own congregation, those can be changed just by unhiding a tab here called drop-down fields. You can go in and you can actually add or delete any of those and change them to suit your own congregation. But I usually like to hide this just so that it doesn't get in the way. Alright, so going back to our spreadsheet here, column B, again, is the nature of the concern. Columns C, D, and E are the privacy, the confidentiality section. And we have 3 different sections: share with the pastor, share with the prayer chain, and share with the congregation. And you can see that those are getting increasingly broad in who's going to be able to know about the prayer request. So if it's an exceptionally confidential request, we'll say, yes, share it with the pastor, but we would say, no, don't share it with the prayer chain, and no, don't share it with the congregation. If it's something that the requester is comfortable with the pastor and the prayer chain knowing, but doesn't want to share it with the broader congregation, you'd simply change the prayer chain to yes also, but leave the congregation as no. And if it's something that the person is completely okay with everybody in the congregation knowing and would like it to be a public prayer, we make it yes, yes, and yes. So that's our confidentiality section, and I'll show you how that plays out into the automatic forms in just a moment. Column F is just the membership or not. So if a person's a member, we choose yes, and if they are not a member of the congregation, we choose no. Columns G and H are just a couple of dates. G is the date that the request came in, and H is the expiration date of the request. Now, I mentioned that we have all of our requests expire, and at first that sounds like it's unfeeling, or like we're trying to remove people that we don't want to pray for, and that's not the case. What we found, though, is that it's really easy for prayer lists to have names that were submitted, often anonymously, that were on the list years and years ago, and nobody knows any longer who this person was or what happened with them, and we want to avoid that. We want to make sure that we're able to follow up and know what's going on with each of the people in our prayer list. So, we've chosen to have our requests expire after 1 month, unless the person making the request says otherwise. You'll notice on the card that the request has an option of expiring anywhere from 2 weeks to 2 months, and they can choose any of those options. If the person continues to need prayers beyond 2 months, we just encourage people to submit a new prayer request card for them when the time comes. So nobody's getting removed from the list if they still need to be on there, but it's just a way for us to help keep things current. So we just enter in the request date and the expiration date, and we're good to go. The column I is the name of the requester, the person who's actually making the request, not necessarily the person to be prayed for. Column J is the address. If we're going to send a card, that's where we put the address for where it goes. Column K is for the contact information for the person making the request, and that's if we need to follow up with them. Sometimes people will submit requests anonymously and there will be nothing here. Finally, column L is where we record everything else. The details go here, and that can be anything from information about the nature of the request to the confidentiality, just any notes we need to make. Now finally, over here, you'll notice that there are 3 columns that are in red, M, N, and O. And those are called New, Current, and Expiring Soon. What those are for is to help us sort out where those requests are on the calendar. So the ones that are listed as new are ones that have come in within the last 7 days. Those would be the most recent requests that we've received. The ones that are current are ones that have the current date today in between the request date and the expiration date. So they're current, they're still ones that we are praying for. And the expiring soon is a request that is expiring within the next 7 days. Those are figured out automatically based on the dates that you entered, and we'll show you why that's important also in just a moment. But before we do that, I want to show you how easy it is to add a person to the list. If you were going to use this system, you could download this form here, and you'd add a person just by doing this. We scroll down to the very bottom, and we click in the first cell that's empty underneath the table. And then we add the name of the person. In this case, we're going to say Jane Doe is the person that we are praying for. And Jane is ill. So we can start typing in illness, or we could choose from the drop-down illness. Now Jane, we know, would probably appreciate being prayed for by the pastor, and also the prayer chain, but right now her daughter tells us that Jane's not really comfortable with the whole congregation knowing, and so we're going to keep that private from the broader congregation for the time being. Now, Jane is not a member, but her daughter is. Her daughter's the one who submitted the request. The request came in today, which is August 9th, and because Jane's issue has to do with cancer and ongoing treatment, we're going to want to keep her on the prayer list for some time. And so we're going to put the maximum of 2 months on there. we're going to have it expire on October 9th. Now that can always be modified later on, and hopefully taken off sooner if Jane does well. The requester is Jane's daughter, Samantha Doe, and Samantha would like us to send a card to her mom, and her mom lives at 423 Park Place, and that is in Newdale. Now, we don't have any information about Samantha's contact, but she's in the church directory, so we can look her up. The details are pretty simple. Jane is undergoing treatment for cancer. And that's all we need to have there. Now, you'll notice that the next 3 columns, the ones in red, are automatically updated. So this is a new request because it just came in today. It's also current because it has not yet expired. And it is not expiring soon because it's still 2 months out. Now, once you have saved this, it's real easy to refresh all of our automatically created forms just by closing the file and opening it back up again. Now, the technical reason for that, for those of you who are geeks, is that we're working with pivot tables for those forms, and they need to be automatically refreshed, or you could go through and do it manually. It's just easiest if you close the file down and open it back up, and don't worry about why. Alright, so let me show you those forms, because this is the fun part. This is where you get the automatically created stuff that you don't have to work on at all. So it's Sunday morning, and it's time for you to lead the prayers for worship. All you have to do is click on the Worship tab, and you've got a list that's ready to go with the prayers that are current, and also the ones that are okay to share with the entire congregation. So they are, in fact, current, true, and they are also share with the congregation, yes. And you'll see that they are grouped by the particular prayer concern, so that as you're leading the prayers and you come to the point where you're going to pray for all of those who are ill, you have them grouped together so that you don't have to sort them out on your own on the fly. And when it's time to do that, I'll just print those out and take them with me to the sanctuary. We also, of course, share these with the prayer chain, and on Sundays, after we've collected the cards that we are gathering at worship, the new requests, we'll enter those in and update the form and send it out to the prayer chain. The way we do that is just to click on the prayer chain tab, and you'll see there's a very similar looking sheet here. This one's going to have a few more names on it because these are the people that might not have wanted their names shared publicly, but we're okay with having their names shared with the prayer chain. And all I do is I will choose to save it as a PDF, and we call it, in this case, Prayer List 8911, and publish it. And we come up with a very nice looking little PDF. And all I do is I email that to our prayer chain coordinator, and she passes it along to all the prayer chain members. We also, as I mentioned, send out cards. And the cards tab also goes to the prayer chain coordinator who handles the cards. And you'll see that this lists all of the new cards this week that we're going to be sending out, ones that have just come in, and it lists them by name and by their address. So again, I would just choose to save it as a PDF and send that along to our prayer chain coordinator. Now remember, all of this is being updated automatically. You don't have to generate any of this. The spreadsheet creates it for you, and that's what makes this really easy. Now, the pastor, of course, has the longest prayer list because those are the ones that are the most confidential, along with the ones that are more public. And so there's a tab for the pastor's prayer list. I don't know if I mentioned earlier, but these are all completely anonymized, random names that we put in here, so you're not actually seeing anything that needs to be confidential. No worries there. Alright, there's also a tab called Pastor Follow-Up. What that is a list of the new requests that have come in this week that are for members. And that's important because it is an early warning sign that the pastor might want to follow up with these people, that they are members who might be ill or in the hospital or grieving. Something's going on, and it's a quick and easy way to get from the prayer list the list of the people that most need to be seen or talked to by the pastor. Finally, there is a tab called Expiring this week. And you'll see here a list of the people whose prayer requests are going to come to an end within the next 7 days. Now, the reason that we have this tab here is just because sometimes as you look it over, you recognize that, for example, Ashley Magellan, she is having ongoing issues, and we know that we need to keep her in our prayers for longer than just this week. So it's really easy just to go back to the Data Entry tab, and to find Ashley, there she is, and all we have to do is click on the expiration date, and let's give her another 2 months, so until October 9th. And then we'll close it, save it, and open it back up again. And when we go back to the Expiring This Week tab, you'll see that Ashley is no longer expiring because we've extended her request for another 2 months. So that just helps us to keep track of that. In case nobody submits a card for them at worship, there are some people that we're able to just look out for that way. So that's all there is to it. You see that it is almost completely automatic. All you really need to do is to enter the names and the information, and the spreadsheet does the rest of the work for you. It's all available again for you to download and to work with. The files include the spreadsheet itself, the prayer request card, and also a PDF version of the prayer request card. And you can get those from www.bobschaefer.com. I hope you enjoy those and that they are useful. If you find your church using them, please let me know. I'd love to hear how they are working for you. You can email me at bob@bobschaefer.com. Thanks for watching. I hope this has been very helpful for you.